Wow. Good morning, everybody. How you doing? Hello, hello. And welcome to the PreStream podcast, episode 100 something. It's actually episode 105 for Friday, April 1st, 2022. Wow! But this ain't no joke, ladies and gentlemen. It's time for a full and fun day of streaming content right here on DSPGaming. Actually coming back from yesterday where I could not take the entire day to stream like I normally do. Actually, I forgot to plug my phone in. Hold on a second. This is very important. Gotta get your priorities straight. Gotta charge your phone. Okay. So anyway, yeah. Unlike usual, yesterday I was not able to stream all day long, right? It was kind of the opposite where I was torn because I had to do some personal stuff on the late stream. We'll talk a little bit about that on the PreStream podcast today. But today I'm back with a full day of streaming, double gaming stream, full PreStream podcast, everything back to normal today, okay? On today's PreStream podcast, we got a lot to talk about. There's a couple gaming news stories I'd like to talk about, in particular, a really positive one about Capcom, and a pretty negative one about Undead Labs, which is interesting because it ties in with some other stuff that I said years ago. So, those will be fun stories to cover. We'll also be talking about my schedule and live on this PreStream podcast, I'm going to be setting up the poll by which you guys will begin to vote on the type of cuisine that we'll be trying out during Feasting with the King, during my 40th birthday bash marathon celebration coming up this week on Wednesday. Okay? Good stuff. So we got a lot to talk about today. Oh yeah, by the way, it's April 1st. You guys realize what that means? It means it's a new month. It means we're feeling fresh. We're feeling springy, right? Springtime here in the United States. Maybe where you live it's not, because in different hemispheres and different regions of the planet, I know the seasons are different. But here, it's starting to get warmer. The air outside is starting to get a lot more fresh and full of springtime pollen. Bleh. But also, you know, life is springing outside. Everything is renewing, revitalizing. And with that, here on DSP Gaming, with a new month, we will have a new membership goal, which I will reveal on stream today. I have been alluding to this goal. My nose is itching because of my allergies, by the way. I've been alluding to this goal and referring to it and building to it for quite a few days now. And what I'd like to do is finally reveal it to you guys. It is absolutely something outside of my comfort zone. It's something that likely none of you have expected or suspected. In fact, with all the people kind of guessing over the last week what it was going to be, no one got it so far. So, we're going to see what happens here today. Okay, guys? So where to start? When you guys so much to talk about on a PreStream podcast, right? Where do you even start? I don't know. I got gunk in my eyes. Boy, this spring really is a double-edged sword. It's nice and refreshing. There's life outside, and I'm like, bleh. There's gunk in my eyes. My face itches. It's not pleasant. If you have allergies, it's bad. And I do have allergies. I might have to take an allergy pill today. Anyway, where to start? I guess we'll start at the beginning, all right? Let's talk about what you can expect for the next week. Today, we're back to full-time streaming, a double streaming day. It is Ghostwire Tokyo on the first stream and Kirby and the Forgotten Land on the late stream. There are still people complaining about these games, and I don't care. At this point, they do have a fun fan base who's coming and watching me play these games. I feel that they're both unique and interesting and fun and different for variety purposes. The fact that I don't feel like playing Elden Ring every day. Plus, I'll be very honest with all of you. The last couple of Elden Ring streams, they weren't so great in my opinion. We're at a point in the game where we're reaching the middle of the game, and the content is kind of pretty repetitive at this point. They're not really doing much original. I think there was one new enemy type we encountered in the entire last two streams. A lot of people have said the middle of this game is the worst part of Elden Ring because there's a lot of padding, there's a lot of reused assets, and nothing really original. I have to agree. Now that I'm there and I'm exploring it all, I'm like, nah, it ain't that great. And you know what's funny is, after basically doing the Altus Plateau stuff for a couple of streams, people are asking me to do other stuff. So I'm like, okay, I'll do Volcano Manor. Then I get told overnight, oh, you can't do Volcano Manor. Because if you do Volcano Manor, you can only get halfway through it. And then if you beat the manor, you can't complete the side quest line that's really good to the game, because then the NPCs won't talk to you anymore if you beat the boss of Volcano Manor, so you can't complete the other content of the game. So the best way to go about this is to go out of sequence, maybe do Mount Gelmir first, then go to the capital city and advance the game to a certain point, so then the NPCs will continue on with their quest line. Then you can go back to Volcano Manor, but now you'll be over-leveled for it. But now you go back to Volcano Manor there, and you do the quest line with the NPCs till the end, so that way they won't be angry at you, and then you can beat Volcano Manor and see the whole quest line with the NPCs, so you don't miss any content in the game. All right. I'm about 80 hours now, is it? 78. Not really, because there was one really short part yesterday. It was like 10 minutes. I'm probably like between 75 and 80 hours into Elden Ring. Okay? And in that range, okay, I went from thinking that the game was really incredibly good to not so good to really incredibly good to good, and now I'm just thinking it's kind of good in parts and not so good in others. I don't know. It's like, I think the game, I hate to say it, and again, I haven't beaten it yet, so don't get me wrong. I almost feel like Elden Ring is a game that if it was much shorter would have been better. Take a look at all the other From Software games, right? They have never been this long before, and it almost feels like they were grasping at straws to pad it and make it as long as it is. There's entire areas of the game that just aren't very interesting or uninspired. And, quite frankly, if you need to do things completely weird and out of sequence, and if really to get all the content of the game you have to really jump through all these hoops, I think maybe they fucked up. I'm just saying. And, you know, I want a game where I can play all the content and not have to do insane amount of fucking broken sequence shit to do it. I literally don't even know what to do tomorrow when I play Elden Ring. I have no clue. I've got differing opinions. Some people say, no, just go ahead and do Mount Gelmir. Some people are saying, go to Volcano Manor, fuck it. And others are like, no, go to the capital city. But then when you go back to the other stuff, you're just going to destroy it because you're over-leveled for it. So, you know, I don't know what to do. It seems like it's like you're damned if you do, you're damned if you don't. And I don't know why they made it like that. But this is 10 out of 10, right? Oh, it's totally the best game I've ever played. 10 out of 10. Amazing. And this is what's hilarious about all those reviewers who were saying it was a perfect game when it came out. It's like they didn't finish it. You know they didn't. You know they played it halfway through and then said, oh, here's my review because I didn't have enough time to finish this 150-hour game, but I had to rush out a review for a deadline, and they didn't even know about any of these things coming up because they didn't get that far by the time that they released the reviews. You know? Pretty dumb. Anyway. Today, we're not doing Elden Ring, thankfully. We're doing other stuff. I'm happy to do more Ghostwire Tokyo today. And by the way, we're jumping right into story. We're heading towards a major story mission right now. We're right near one, actually. And that's where we're going to start off today. I like the game. I still, it's getting harder now. The enemies are getting more complex. And the challenges are getting more interesting. And the side content's still fun. I'm really liking Ghostwire Tokyo. I'm 9 hours in now. I still really like the game, and I can't wait for more today and see where the story goes. So for those of you who are sticking around for Ghostwire Tokyo and not just sitting here complaining it's not Elden Ring, I really appreciate that because a lot of us like variety. This game absolutely is one of the more original games I've played in the last few years, even though you can argue it takes elements from other games, you're right, but it does it in a creative and interesting way. And I'm enjoying it a lot right now, and I'm looking forward to this stream, okay? Later tonight, more Kirby and the Forgotten Land, a game that now I'm 6 hours into. We've beaten the first 3 worlds. Every stream of this game I'm really enjoying. Every world's interesting and different. The puzzles are getting more complex and challenging. In fact, it started off where I was basically like doing everything in a stage, and now I can't even come close to doing everything in a stage on the first go. It's that complicated. The abilities are leveling up like an RPG, and I'm really having a good chill time with this game. If you're looking for the ultimate chill atmosphere, tonight's Kirby stream is that, and that's at 6:45 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time tonight, okay? All right, tomorrow, Elden Ring on the main stream, and I quite frankly have no idea what I'm doing. I'm going to look for guidance from my viewers to say, what should I do so I don't miss content in this game, but at the same time, It sounds like I'm going to be running in circles. Okay? So that should be fun. Tomorrow night, there's no stream. All right, no late stream on Saturday night. Why? Because I'm still working on my taxes. I'll talk about that in a moment. I'll let you guys know how that's going because it may very well affect the schedule for the rest of this weekend. Okay? On Sunday, it'll be another full day of streaming. Yes, it'll be Ghostwire Tokyo and Kirby again. And then on Monday, it'll be Elden Ring. And if things go well, it'll be a late night Skyrim chill stream. Skyrim Anniversary Edition. But if things don't go well, then I might have to have another night off to work on and hopefully finish my taxes. Again, I'll tell you in a moment what I mean by that, okay? So, that's my streaming week. I'm off from streaming on Tuesday. When I return on Wednesday, it is my big birthday marathon bash event, okay? So, firstly, we still need to determine what games I'm playing. Now, it's getting really confusing because the options that I presented to you last week were as follows. Either we can play a variety of Game Pass games, the likes of which we've already started. For example, continue with Serious Sam 4, I Am Fish, One Piece Pirate Warriors 4, and maybe pick one more game from Game Pass and play those each for about an hour, hour and a half. Or, to avoid the fact that I'm already backlogged on games and doing that would likely further backlog me, instead of that, we could just continue on with all of the games that I've already been playing. Okay, including Elden Ring, Skyrim Anniversary Edition, Ghostwire Tokyo, and Kirby. A good hour and a half or so session of each one, making further progress, so it's still good variety, but at least we're not putting ourselves further set back in the current playthroughs I'm doing. So people have been giving me their opinions about what do you think what you should do or what you don't do, right? I'm like, oh, okay. Now it's, oh, why don't you do half and half? Why don't you play like 2 Game Pass games within 2 current games? Like, oh, why are we overcomplicating this? I presented 2 options. Choice A or choice B. Now people are like, well, what about choice AB? No, 2 options. It's very simple. 1 or 2, not 12, not 1.5. You know, people love to do, see what I mean? And again, there's no best of both worlds here. No matter what I do on the birthday marathon, it's going to end up being disappointing for someone. Some people want just the Game Pass. Some people want the current stuff. Some people want both. And some people want neither. Someone literally just said, I vote for WWE 2K22. Help! I don't know. I'm still thinking about it. I'm going to think about it for another day or two. I promise you I will have a determination by like maybe Sunday. So at least then we have a couple days to build up to what it's going to be. But I just don't know yet. I just don't know yet what I want to do. I'm completely confused because with no consensus, it's very hard to figure out what the best choice is. In reality, I don't think either choice is bad. I think that doing Game Pass stuff for variety is fun, but it's going to set us back on the playthroughs, which is a negative. Or doing the current playthroughs we're doing is good, but then people might say, well, that's what you've already been doing. How is that special for your birthday? So I agree with you on both sides. Like, there's positives and negatives to each choice. So I guess it is what it is. I just kind of shrug, and I'm like, oh, by the way, a tip just came in from someone who wants to support the Kirby streams again. So we're going to do exactly what they did yesterday. That's not going to count towards this stream. It's going to say, hey, thank you. I appreciate you supporting the Kirby streams. Thank you for that Kirby Knot. Wow, that's nice of you. I'll read that out in a minute, but thank you, Kirby Knot. And that, by the way, that is the new tip animation. That animation specifically is for tips between $20 and up to $49 in size. You'll see that special Elden Ring animation play on the stream. Thank you very much, Kirby Knot, for that. And again, I will shout that out in a bit. Okay. All right. So that being said, also, during this birthday marathon event on Wednesday, the 6th, my actual 40th birthday, okay, you guys will be helping me to choose cuisine for a live Feasting with the King episode. Feasting with the King is a show where I order food, usually a kind of food that I don't eat all the time or have rarely eaten, and I try to order things that maybe I've never tried before, and I do first-time tasting and meal with you guys. It's a really fun series that I started last year. It's successful. You guys like it, and you seem to like it every time we do a marathon, so we're doing it again on my birthday. Now, ladies and gentlemen, live, right now we're doing the poll by which you guys are going to start voting on the type of cuisine for Feasting with the King. Okay? So let me go ahead and refresh my page here. And I'm going to head over to the community tab of DSPGaming. And I'm going to say, which cuisine should Phil try out for his birthday edition of Feasting with the King? Good luck. And the options are, option number 1, Thai food. Option number 2, Vietnamese food. And option number 3, barbecue. Food. I guess you know, typically you don't say barbecue food, do you? Weird. Anyway, there you go. All right, I'm posting it up right now. It is now live on the main channel page of DSPGaming here on YouTube on the community tab. Please vote. You got today, you got tomorrow, you got Sunday, you got Monday, and yeah, you even got Tuesday to vote because Wednesday is the marathon. So you got a few days to get your votes in there, and I'm very curious to see what people start voting for. In fact, I'll check a couple times during today's pre-stream podcast to see what the results are here as that poll goes live. Within the first few seconds, I can tell you right now, we got a strong lead. No, we don't. There's a tie between Vietnamese and barbecue with Thai food like 1 vote behind. So there you go. I'm sure people will vote a crazy amount. All right, excellent. I'll leave that up here, and I'll keep checking it during the course of today's pre-stream podcast. Very nice. Okay. Ah, my nose. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, awesome, right? Cool. Also, during the birthday event, I'll be trying out a piece of birthday cake. In fact, my wife, I believe, is planning what kind of cake she's gonna make me, and she's finding like a recipe for it. And we're gonna be getting the ingredients on my day off on Tuesday. She'll be baking it probably Tuesday night, so we have it on Wednesday for the marathon. Or maybe she'll bake it during the day. I don't know how cake works. I really don't. I know nothing about baking. You're asking like someone. You might as well ask me Greek. You know, how do you speak in Greek? Do you have to bake a cake ahead of time and refrigerate it, or can you just bake it and it's fresh? You eat it like that? Does it have to set? I don't know anything about it. I really have no clue. I'm an idiot. So, I guess I'll have to ask her about the ins and outs of how that works, right? All right, anyway. So, yeah, all those fun festivities happening on my birthday. And then after my birthday, then it'll go back to regular gameplay streaming every day, alternating back and forth. Okay? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, before we get too far into the pre-stream podcast, last night I worked on my taxes. And basically I started work around the same time that I would start my late stream, so around 6:45 p.m.-ish Pacific time. And I was in this office all the way till around 10:15 p.m. Pacific time. To give you an idea of the kind of shit that you have to do when you own your own business, I had to scan a stack of documents and basically, you know, get them into an area where my tax guy can access them. I was downloading a ton of data from various different sources. All, you know, income expense data from a million different places. And sadly, this year, it's just a major pain in the ass because I don't have everything in front of me like I usually do. Like, usually when I do my taxes, it's like, okay, I know I can pull from here. I don't have that this year because of a lot of shit that happened to me last year with identity theft. It basically screwed up a lot of my records and a lot of things. And because of that, we're in a situation where it's like, there's stuff here, there's stuff there. Well, I can't pull from here where I normally would have pulled. I have to pull from over here now. Oh, by the way, also because I was, you know, released from my partnership contract with Twitch, now my income is even more complex, and I got to do more calculations here and here and here. So basically, it took me, I'm not even kidding, about 2 hours just to do, like, pre-work, meaning scanning of documents, filling out of forms, yada, 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 and getting stuff uploaded. And it's like, okay, now I can finally sit down and start to actually, oh, hold on. Oh, excuse me. Oh, that was bad. Sorry about that. So yeah, I can finally sit down and start to crunch these numbers. I can start to look at these numbers and put them into a big spreadsheet, and the data, plug in the data for each particular month and transaction and each piece. It's so annoying. Like, I'm not kidding you. You have to be so careful to make sure that you count every piece of income, that you count every expense that you had. And basically, it's up to my tax guy to figure out what is a write-off, what's not. Because people ask me this shit all the time. Oh, well, how much how much is the write-off, and is this a write-off, and is that a write-off? Listen, I'm not the expert, you know? And the thing is, people talk to me like I am. I'm not. At one point, I thought I knew more than I did, and then my old tax guy, I remember from years and years ago, wasn't even doing the taxes right and screwed everything up. So, it's very simple. I just gather a tremendous amount of data. I plug it in to this, you know, kind of like, I don't even know what it's called. I don't think, it could be called profit and loss. I guess it could also just be called income and expenses. I have this kind of like database that I put all my data into. And I have a summary page that summarizes all the data from all the different pages. And then you could break it down to like literally month by month. And you could break it down to day by day if you need to. I'm not kidding. That's how detailed I go into my shit. And it's very, very complicated. So, you know, last night, arguably, I spent about 3.5 hours working on this. And out of that, the first 2 hours was essentially like shitty busy work of scanning and uploading and bullshit. And I finally had a little bit over an hour to kind of sit down and finally get into the hard numbers of it all. And I'm like, damn, I feel like I barely scratched the surface of what I need to do. So the good news is I did finish the bullshit upfront work. And now when I sit down to do this again tomorrow night, I can just work on the data of income and expenses and profit and yada, yada, yada. I can work on that now, even though that is really the hardest thing to do. You know what I mean? I guess we'll see. I guess we shall see. So, there you go. That's all I really have to say about it. Obviously, I can't go into specifics. You know, these idiots who want specifics are just going to use it against me in a negative way because they're morons. So tomorrow we'll see what happens. Another night tomorrow to work on it. That's why there's no late stream on Saturday night. Now, if things go according to plan, and if I'm able to basically get to a point where I've done most of it or all of it, then I likely will be streaming on Monday night. But I don't know if that's going to happen. So I'm just leaving it out there that I may have to still take off Monday night to finish this up. The other thing that could happen, very matter-of-factly, is I could send all the data to my tax guy. And then over the course of this coming week, he could come back to me with a bunch of additional questions or ask for additional info. And now I have to take time away to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what's going to happen. So we'll see what happens. But I'll let you know if I need to take any more time out. I hope not. Really, I hope not. But I guess we'll find out. Okay? Cool. All right, so outside of that, I'm just trying to think, is there anything else we should get to before we get to a couple announcements and the game news? Today I have two major stories, one about Capcom and one about Undead Labs. But I'm just trying to think, is there any other odds and ends that I needed to cover before we get to the announcement about the membership goal for the month? Okay. Because I swear there was something else I needed to talk about. Now it's completely, nah. I guess not. I guess not, because if it was that important, I would have remembered it, right? And I'm not remembering it, so obviously it's a bunch of bullshit. So there you go. Okay. All right, ladies and gentlemen. So, as you know, over the past couple of months, I've been very happy and very appreciative of all of your support and your buy-in when it comes to engagement of the content here on DSPGaming. And what I mean by that is, for a very long time, this channel was essentially an archive channel as I focused all of my efforts on being a full-time streamer over on Twitch TV. This was from early 2017 when I was playing Breath of the Wild 1 all the way through my Returnal playthrough of last year. Like, this was the major focus, trying to be a streamer on Twitch TV. Now, I was successful at that. I just want to make this clear. I was absolutely positively successful being a streamer on Twitch TV, okay? It wasn't like it was a big failure or anything like that. But as you all know, I was kicked out of the partner program last year for no justifiable reason at all. And you know, it hurt me very, very badly. Since then, I've tried to basically take my following over here to DSP Gaming on YouTube and make this the primary destination for all of my content. And I've tried to rebuild this channel from the ground up. That's tough when you're coming from almost 5 years of neglecting the channel and only treating it as an archive of live streams on Twitch. You see what I'm saying? Back in January, I realized that there was going to have to be a change here on DSP Gaming if this channel was ever going to grow. And it wasn't just going to be mass uploading content. It was going to be me asking for buy-in from those who were dedicated viewers of mine. So back in January, I started asking you guys for engagement. And what I said was, can you please start liking the videos, start liking the streams. If you are enjoying them, simply giving these things a like gives this channel engagement and will allow this channel to grow because it'll give it visibility on YouTube. You may not realize this, but the more likes a channel has, the more readily it shows up in related results, search results directly, or suggested videos on YouTube. And my content for the longest time was just not showing up for anyone, or only would show up for those who adamantly already watch my content. So why do you care if there's related content of mine if you're already watching it, right? So not only that, but also leaving comments on the videos. And this was a huge thing because I just turned the comments back on back in like mid-November. For the first time, yes, in almost 5 years, you were able to leave comments on my videos again. So this was a huge change. And I knew that it was going to take a while for people to get used to it, and there was going to have to be buy-in from the viewers. I'm happy to say you guys did buy in. Engagement is way up. I can tell you right now, things such as overall engagement, average view time, that kind of stuff, the things that YouTube judges performance off of, is all good. Subscribers, good. Subscribers had a big increase in the last 2 months compared to what I would usually get here on DSP Gaming. And that's a good thing, you know? But basically the one thing that I've absolutely admittedly struggled with here on YouTube, since the day that I came to YouTube last year, leaving Twitch, is paid memberships, which are the equivalent of subscribers over on Twitch, okay? On Twitch, when you become a paid subscriber, you get many benefits, including not only basically getting a chat crown badge or a badge of some sort to show that you're a channel subscriber, but you also get access to a streamer's emotes, and you get to use their emotes not only in their chat, but in other chats. There's so many, I could go into so many benefits, like getting exclusive emotes unlocked for you because of your certain tier or a certain length of a subscriber. That's another thing too. There's just a ton of benefits. Over here on YouTube, you get about maybe 70% of those benefits when you're a member. Even though YouTube is trying to push paid memberships as a equivalent product to paid subscriptions on Twitch, it definitely is not. The benefit here on YouTube is that the content creator can set the price of the membership. For example, to become a member here, it's $3.99. On Twitch, they force you to pay $4.99. There's no way to change the pricing. I changed the pricing here on YouTube to make it more attractive. However, since the benefits are less, I've had a big struggle trying to keep people as members or recruit new people as members. This channel at the highest had 391 members 2 months ago. And then basically it fell off, and I've really, really struggled to try to get back to that level and or to convince people that the memberships are worth it. Now, why are the memberships important? That's consistent, dependable, solid income for me and my business. Unlike the day-to-day transactions that happen here, for example, I don't know how many super chats I'm going to get in a day. I don't know how many tips I'm going to get any particular day. Some days are really, really good. Some days are not so good. I can't control that. I'm here putting out consistent content for you guys, and some days someone might come by who can do a big contribution because they like what I'm doing, and other days maybe just be a slow day. And I can't really do much about that, right? But what I can do is try to maintain a solid chunk of support through memberships by providing things through the memberships that you feel are worthwhile. At this point, I basically feel like I've gotten to the extent of I can't really give you much more. I'm not sure what it would be because, as you know, I'm here 6 days a week full-time live streaming for you, and I don't have time for outside side projects or other things that I could do to provide something extra for a paid membership. And a lot of the things that other people do to get people to become paid members on YouTube, I can't do. And I'll give you an example. People who are the on-demand style content creators, I put out 1 or 2 videos a day, and it's edited content. It's not a live stream, and it's something that's, very hyper-focused on a topic, like a news story or some kind of drama topic, or maybe, who knows. These people put out a lot of different kinds of videos, right? That's very different than what I do. For someone like that, for example, could say, well, if you're a paid member, you get access to my videos, my edited videos early, a day early, and everyone else has to wait a day, and then it goes live publicly, right? I don't do that. I'm pumping out so much content for you guys on a daily basis, and it's raw, unedited gameplay stream content, or this podcast, right? That it wouldn't make sense for me to try to hide that content behind a membership paywall for a day. It makes no sense at all. In addition, as I've told you guys many times over the years, sadly, I have so many negative people following me on the internet. They will do whatever it takes to break the law, break the rules, and make sure that if I were ever to try to set something up like that, like everyone else seems to do on YouTube, that won't work. And I'll give you an example here. Many years ago, there was an idea tossed around. This was for my patrons, right? A long time ago. We're talking when my Patreon was a big thing. It's not anymore, okay? A long time ago, I said, oh, maybe what I could do is an exclusive show for people who want to become patrons of mine on Patreon. And it would run for like a few days just for them exclusively, and then I could make it public or whatever. And we talked about this. And just during the stages where I was talking about it, all right, some of my biggest haters came out and publicly said in their content, well, if Phil ever puts anything like that behind some kind of a specific paywall, we would pay just to become a member of whatever that paywall is, whether it's Patreon or a member here on YouTube, and we would illegally steal his content and re-upload it everywhere on the internet, so therefore there's absolutely no benefit to becoming that tier of member or Patreon or whatever it may be. All right? Like, they literally announced it and said, we will just basically break the law. We don't care. So when people are willing to go that far, there's not much that I can do. I'm very limited in the kind of content that I put out. Really, the only one thing that that people have asked for that I haven't done is members-only style multiplayer events. And there's two reasons why I haven't done them. Number one, it's because usually there's just not enough going on in the realm of multiplayer games to hold any interest. I mean, in the last year, what multiplayer games really, realistically, would people have been interested in playing with me? Maybe Halo Infinite, and I don't know, maybe King of Fighters 15 for the week I played it. You see what I'm saying? Like, it's not like it used to be where there's so much multiplayer content that it would hold interest and people would be like, wow, I'm so excited to become a member. In addition to that, here's the other side of it. The logistics of doing it and the actual interest overall with my overall viewing audience, it's just not worth it. I know, because I used to do these events for patrons. I used to have a situation where I had 50 to 100 patrons who all wanted to play multiplayer with me, and I would try to do the event, and it was like a nightmare trying to schedule it, because you got to understand that I have a worldwide fan base, and people want to play with me, but they can't make it all the time. And now it's like, well, I paid to be a member because I specifically wanted to be in this event, but now you've made it so the times of the event don't jive with my schedule. Now I'm upset with you. And that used to happen all the time with the patrons. In addition, now it's like, well, what am I going to do? Set up several different sessions, several different time frames so people can play multiplayer in this game and that game. Next thing you know, I've got 5, 6 streams that are all multiplayer, and how many people are really doing that with me? 20? What about the rest of my viewing audience, hundreds to thousands of people who are sitting around with their thumb up their butt when I'm doing members-exclusive multiplayer? And this is what happened previously as well. With the patron stuff, like, whenever I did it, the rest of my audience was bored. The attendance was always low, the engagement was low, and people didn't really care about it outside of the members. So it's like shooting yourself in the foot. Let's do a special event, a members-only multiplayer event for, like, a few people, when I have a wide viewing audience who's like, why aren't you playing the games you're supposed to be playing right now? You're holding everything up. You're getting backlogged. What is going on? So this is why I don't do this event. I really don't feel like it's worthwhile, just being honest. Not to say that I wouldn't enjoy playing multiplayer with members, but the fact that it's just not viable. There's not enough multiplayer games to do it. The multiplayer games that are out there aren't great and don't really hold my interest. And on top of that, the logistics of making it work out, I always end up with people who are disappointed. And in general, the general viewers just don't care about those events regardless. So it's kind of like, please a very small focused group of people who want to become paid members at the expense of everyone else. I don't think I should do that. Okay? So, with everything that's been going on, the last couple of months you may have noticed, the members goal has gone down, 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 down. The goal hasn't changed. The goal is still I want to hit 400 members. The highest I ever got was 391, and then it stagnated, froze, and we didn't hit it. Okay? So instead of trying to think of conventional things, and instead of trying to think of things that have been done before or everyone else has done, you know, basically I'm trying to think of things that are absolutely specific to me. I'm trying to think of things that possibly would bring something new to the table. All right, something that I've never done before. I've been talking about this over the last week, that basically I'm trying to think of something that's outside of my comfort zone, that essentially would be something that maybe would attract different audiences, all right, and would make it interesting for a lot of different people. I'm not saying this is certainly going to be something that would be interesting to everyone, but I do feel that it would basically get some people interested enough where maybe it would motivate some people to want to become a member to see this type of event. All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go. Prepare your butts. All right. Prepare your butts. Ladies and gentlemen, the members goal for the month of April 2022 is 400 members. All right? And if we hit 400 members at any time during the course of April, all right, I will schedule a special event, all right, where I will do, hold on. Excuse me. I will do a type of video you guys have asked me to do for many, many years. And I've completely avoided doing it. I've completely avoided commenting about it. I have stayed away from it as far as humanly possible. All right? But it's time to experiment a bit. All right? So, ladies and gentlemen, 6 million. 6 million. That's a pretty interesting number, isn't it? 6 million. 6 million people have seen it. It's time for me to comment about it. Ladies and gentlemen, if we hit the members goal this month, Dark Side Phil reacts to Down the Rabbit Hole, Dark Side Phil. The entire video, 30 minutes. We'll go through it piece by piece. I will dissect it. I will tell you what I think about each piece of it. I will basically do everything I need to do to comment on this video. I've avoided it for over 5 years. Over 6 million people have seen this video, and this is all they know of me. They think that that is me right there. It is me. That's me from a long time ago. That's a really interesting face, isn't it? So, I will watch this video, and I will essentially comment on it, much like I do with the retrospective events that I have done previously. Now, I will give you some upfront information. I've seen the video, okay? And honestly, I don't think it's that bad. I've seen the video, and I watched it. I was like, well, actually, a lot of this stuff is pretty true or close to the full truth, with a few things here or there. In fact, a lot of the things in the video that are incorrect are more nitpicky than anything else. I think the general vibe of the video is correct. Okay, for those who don't know what this video is, this is from 2017, over 5 years ago. There was a person on YouTube who was starting to do docu-series, and he did a wide variety of stuff, but started doing more dramatic content, and mine was the first dramatic video that he did about a content creator on the internet. And over 6 million people have seen this video. Arguably, outside of my own content, this is the most viewed video about me on the internet. Okay? So, why is this interesting? Because I've never commented on my past like this before, ever. Right? You've never seen someone else's perspective and then heard my take on it. Nor have you heard the true story behind a lot of the stuff. The whole idea is, even though this is a 30-minute video, this would not be a 30-minute stream. This would be a lengthy stream where I go through it and I basically talk with you guys about each piece of it and give you perspective about that time in my life and what it was like. Admittedly, I've made a lot of mistakes over the years, and this video is a lot about that. Okay? Now, you may say, now wait a minute. Hold on a second here. Phil, people do these react videos all the time, right? and you crap on them or whatever, and you even say when people do react videos to other people's videos that's you're stealing content, right? You've said directly when people are reacting to your content that they're stealing your content without your permission. So what makes you any better than them that you think that you can react to this video? Well, because I got permission. I directly asked the guy and had a conversation with him. And he said that, yes, he gives me absolute permission to do this, and he's gung-ho for it. He actually would like to see the stream himself. All right? And just in case anyone wants to be a dickhead about it and say Phil's making this shit up, he actually even said that probably people would say that, and that he's outright giving permission, and he will confirm this. If people say that it's fake, he'll say, no, it's real. Okay? So, yeah. Again, I have never absolutely done anything like this before, ever. In my history as a content creator, whenever it comes to this kind of stuff, I tell you guys, listen, I make my own shit. I focus on the positive, right? But in this particular case, all right, Mr. Frederick Knudsen, which is the name of the guy who made this, and that's his channel on YouTube, by the way, made a video that was ultra popular. And like I said, I hate to say it, the vast majority of people who know me for negative reasons, and a lot of them have seen this video. Like I said, out of all the content made about me, this video has the most views. There's no other video on YouTube that has more than 6 million views about me. So it makes sense to react to the biggest one, right? There's other shit out there that's really stupid. And just, here's the thing. Why waste time on the junk out there that you know is fake when this actually is pretty factually correct, but I can add more to it? I feel like if I do this Darkside Phil reacts to Down the Rabbit Hole Darkside Phil, that I can actually give you perspective on the things said in this. Because admittedly, even though a lot of this stuff is right, I'll tell you, he got a lot of stuff right. There's a lot of things in there that are either mischaracterized or speculation that aren't right. And I could definitely take this opportunity to at least elaborate on some of that and clear the air on some of that, regardless of the fact that a lot of people probably won't believe me anyway. At least I can tell you my side of the story, okay? So, there you go. And by the way, after having a conversation with Frederick Knudsen, I don't think that he's a hater at all. In fact, you know, the perspective here is that this was one of his earlier videos, and he was testing the waters for this kind of content, and he went on to make other stuff. Like, I think he made videos about Spoonie, and actually someone who you guys may be familiar with, Wings of Redemption, who basically gets mentioned on my streams all the time. And I, like, really don't know much about the guy, but he has a 2-hour video on him, and I may watch it to learn more about him, since it seems everyone wants to constantly talk about him on my channel. All right. So that being said, okay, that's what I'm offering. If we hit 400 memberships on DSPGaming, wow, I'm forgetting the name of my own channel. If we hit 400 memberships on DSPGaming at any point during this month, okay, then I will do this. Now, if this ends up being successful, if people like it, if it ends up being something that's as educational, as fun and silly, then I will consider doing other things like this in the future as well. But I'm not committing to that, because it very well could end up being a waste of time too. I don't know. You never know. You got to try different things. And like I've told you guys over the years, you know, I every once in a while, you got to go outside of your comfort zone and try something different. But I try to avoid things that are going to cause a lot of negativity and drama. In this case, watching this particular video, I actually don't think that's the case. I don't. I think that this is a video that's a lot of matter-of-fact stuff about my very early years on YouTube, all the way up to, say like 2017. And it covers a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the past and a lot of people bring up over the years. And essentially what I can do is I can clear the air on a lot of it, right? And I can talk about it and say, you know, this is true, this is not, or this is mostly true, but here's the actual true story behind it, or more elaboration on it. But in the most part, it's going to be kind of going through a history of my fails, a history of things that I did wrong that led to the fact that I'm nowhere near as popular as I used to be, which is undeniably true. And even though I can argue as much as I want that it's not my fault, it's not my fault, a lot of it's my fault. And this video actually covers a lot of that stuff. And that's a good thing, I feel, to go down memory lane and not only look at the positives but the negatives and kind of relive the experiences and say, listen, here's where I messed up, but here's how I've learned. Maybe one of the good things about this video is that we may look at it together and realize that that was old me and not the current me, right? And that's a good thing, to see how someone's changed over the years for the better. And that's, I think, one of the things that's going to come out of it, okay? All right. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the deal, all right? But we got some work to do because we're currently at 352 members. We may have gotten another one. I think there was one more that was added here during the pre-stream. But yeah, like we got work to do to hit that goal, all right? So it's announced, it's out there. Please consider becoming a member if that's something you're interested in. And I get the feeling that you're going to have people who are longtime viewers who are interested in something like that, and people who maybe aren't longtime viewers, and quite frankly, they don't like me that much, but they want to see this happen as well. So let's see what happens. All right? It's out there now. Let's see what you guys think. I'm curious about the feedback. Again, this is something completely outside of my comfort zone. I have to start doing things like this, or else I don't know how else to motivate people to do memberships on YouTube when I can't offer much. You know, I wish I could offer more. I'm doing what I can within the realm of what I can do. You know what I'm saying? It's very limited. So, all right. Ladies and gents. Ladies and gents. My nose is itching, by the way. That's it. Let's move on. Let's move on to gaming news, shall we? We got two big stories to talk about today. The first story is as follows. It's a good one. It's a very positive story. Are you ready? So, here's the positive story. Capcom, the game developer that makes games such as Mega Man, Resident Evil, Monster Hunter, Street Fighter, Devil May Cry, among many other games, but those are like their major big franchises right now. Okay? Fair enough. Among those, okay, some of them are doing really well. I would argue Resident Evil's doing really good, and Monster Hunter's doing incredibly good. Even though I'm not even within that Monster Hunter bubble, when a Monster Hunter game comes out, they seem to sell ridiculous amounts, and I'm not really involved in it, nor do I know much about it, but it's crazy to hear that they have like these insane record-breaking sales numbers, like, holy shit, but then you don't hear anyone talk about it. It's just so odd. But they're apparently making money hand over fist. I don't think that Street Fighter is particularly doing so well. And I think we're waiting for a big announcement of Street Fighter 6, you know, actual information about it rather than a shitty logo to actually reinvigorate us. But Capcom is doing so well, all right, that basically they are going to raise the pay of all of their employees by 30%. Apparently across the board. Like, anyone who works for Capcom is getting a 30% pay raise. Wow. I've never worked for a place where I got a 30% pay raise, even when the company was making money hand over fist. I got a bonus one year when I worked at the helicopter company when they were doing good. But a 30% increase, right, in pay is pretty crazy. And since they announced this yesterday, Capcom has basically been getting a lot of praise all across the internet. People are saying, wow, here's a company that gets it. They're doing well, and they're paying it forward to their employees. The people who work as hard as possible to put out the quality content are the ones who are getting rewarded. Instead of taking that money and giving it to the shareholders and giving it to the upper fucking management who are already filthy rich, they're actually paying it forward to the people who work their asses off to make the company do well. Personally, I think this is amazing. I think it's a great story. I hope it's true. You know, just because they said they're doing it doesn't mean that it happened yet. But I mean, I hope it's true. And if that's the case, all right, I would hope that this becomes more of a common thing in the gaming industry, because we get too many horror stories in the gaming industry about mistreatment of employees, required crunch, employees not getting compensated for the amount of work that they're doing. You know, all kinds of preferential treatment, unfair treatment, sexism, sexual harassment, all this kind of crap happening in the games development industry. And to finally hear a nice story that, oh, something nice has happened. A company's doing so well and apparently is doing things right. And now you're actually rewarding those people for working hard. I mean, holy shit, I can't believe it. It's rare in this day and age when you find any kind of a major corporation that actually values its employees as people rather than just like a cog in a machine or a number on a fucking spreadsheet. You know what I'm saying? A lot of these companies just treat their employees as like, oh, that's an asset, or that's a piece of the company that it's disposable and can be replaced. By doing this, Capcom is essentially saying, no, we feel like everyone working for us is a hard worker, is a good worker, and we want to reward that because we're doing so well. Let's help everyone under us, you know, do the right thing. And that's a great thing, right? I'm actually quite happy about this news. I wish I worked for Capcom. Anyway, congratulations to all employees. Please proceed to the raise area of your paycheck. Yes, that's good. That's good news. Now, what I'm hoping is that Capcom can continue to ride this wave of positivity, right? Keep pumping out great games. Make better Resident Evils. Keep making Monster Hunter, because obviously that's a cash cow for them. But let's make a good Street Fighter now. Let's pump out Street Fighter 6 and let's make a ton of money on it because it's a great game, right? Let's have this Capcom Fighting Collection come out in June and be a really good collection that everyone likes and it sells a bunch of copies. Let's make a new Devil May Cry game that's good. Actually, Devil May Cry 5 was good, so I'm not going to criticize that. I thought it was a pretty good game. You know, beating the shit out of people with a motorcycle is pretty fun. So, okay. Anyway, yeah. Let's do... I hope this is really good news, and I hope that some good stuff comes out of it, and, you know, Capcom continues to be successful. Sweet. Now let's talk about the flip side of that. Undead Labs. Ooh, boy. So who knows Undead Labs? You guys know who Undead Labs are? If you've heard of the company, you know all about Undead Labs and the games that they make. Raise your hand right now, your right hand, just like this, so I can get a show of who knows what I'm talking about here. Okay? Okay, why are you doing... Put your hand down. I can't see it. This is across the internet. I can't see you. Why are you putting your hand up? Anyway. I think the point that I'm going to make here is a lot of people don't know who Undead Labs is anyway. Undead Labs is the company that makes the State of Decay series. Alright? Now, a little bit of history here. Way back when in 2013, State of Decay 1 was released. It was an indie title. It was not made by a major studio. Undead Labs was not owned by anyone or anything like that. And when it came out, it was shockingly good. It came out in the summer of 2013. It was an open world game where you played as a survivor that teamed up with other survivors in a third-person environment against a bunch of zombies and mutated freaks. Your goal was to not only survive, but to build your own kind of base, like almost like a simulator style. You build up your defenses. You raise crops. It's kind of like a survival game where you build up your colony. You have the ability to craft weapons and ammo and stuff like that, but then you venture out into the world to rescue more survivors and to complete missions and story and all kinds of stuff. It was a good combination of exploration, survival, simulation, and some good story elements. I really enjoyed the game. It was one of my favorite games of that year because it was just surprisingly good for what it was. Okay? Now, what ended up happening is that the game was so good that they decided to make a sequel. State of Decay 2. And during the development of State of Decay 2 is apparently where some of the major problems started to happen with the studio. Apparently the guy who was the studio head kind of decided that he didn't really want to focus primarily on this project or this studio anymore and started to split his focus between other companies and projects to the point where people were saying there basically was no upper management leadership really anymore. About halfway through development, things kind of went off the rails. State of Decay 2, I have a history with. Are you guys aware of this? You probably aren't. So, 4 years ago was the year when State of Decay 2 was going to come out. I was looking forward to the game positively because I really liked State of Decay 1, and I was definitely hoping that the game was going to be great. Okay? Now, they did a really weird campaign. Listen to this. They provided copies of the game early to certain streamers to stream on Twitch. Okay? However, they provided said streamers with a very weird criteria, basically saying you can stream the game early, and because you're streaming it early, obviously you're going to get advanced views. People are going to contribute to your streams for being able to play this game like a week early. But we're hitting you with what's called a review embargo. What that means is you can play the game, but you can't actually give your opinion on the game. So there were certain streamers who were able to play State of Decay 2 a week early, get tons of extra views and money from their viewership for doing so, but they couldn't actually say if they liked the game or not. That would have been violating the review embargo. Okay? So what happens when you're allowed to play a game but not actually comment on it? That's called paid advertisement. So anyone who played the game early was essentially a paid shill for Undead Labs and doing a paid advertisement for them. This is probably one of the most underhanded things in gaming, and it happens a lot. You just don't hear about the behind the scenes about it. Whenever you see someone playing a game super duper early, if there's still a review embargo in place, understand they cannot be honest about that game or they will get in trouble. All right? Now, I'm not saying this happens all the time, but you got to be very careful because these companies are doing their best to try to get free promotion and or paid promotion of their game that's dishonest. All right? So a lot of streamers played this game early, and during that week when they were doing so, I actually was on a kind of mini vacation with Cap, and I was not making any content for a few days, and people have been contacting me saying, Phil, are you aware that people got this game like super early and they're streaming it right now? What are your thoughts? So I posted up a tweet about it, and it blew up in a very, very negative way for hilarious reasons, because now I can actually speak to it truthfully. Back then, I couldn't. The tweet said something as follows. I can't say it word for word, but it was like, oh, so State of Decay 2, anyone who's playing this game early, you got to understand something. They're a paid shill. They're literally doing a pay advertisement. So please understand that if you want to see people actually play this game for real, wait till later in the week when it's officially released and you can say whatever you want. In particular, I'm doing that this coming Friday, so please come check out my content, okay? Now, I said this on my own Twitter account. It wasn't like I went to someone else's timeline and I was commenting or I was interjecting on a story. All I did, I said it on my own stuff. All of a sudden, I start getting negative tweets from content creators all over the internet whining and complaining that I said this. Oh, you just don't understand how the industry works, Dark Side Phil. Oh, you're just Mr. Sour Grapes because you couldn't get a copy of the game early, Dark Side Phil. Really ignorant, dumb shit like that. One guy called me like an old crotchety guy who will never be successful and shit like that. By the way, the guy's an asshole, and I've kind of followed his content over the years. I see that he really is a fucking paid shill scumbag. Funny that he would, insult me publicly about it. So yeah, so at the time, I got such negative backlash against me, all right, that I basically made a public apology and I deleted the tweet, all right? However, after the game released, State of Decay 2 was a fucking piece of shit. This game was nowhere near as good as State of Decay 1. It cut out critical elements that made the first game good, including most of the story elements. The game basically tried to be more ambitious by adding in a bigger open world, but essentially just became a sim game with none of the things that made the original game interesting. State of Decay 2 was terrible, and everyone who played it early was a paid fucking shill, and it actually reinforced my fucking point that people can't trust that shit. So all those shitheads who actually attacked me on Twitter basically ate shit when the game came out and looked terrible, and critics panned the game and said it was bad. Okay? Now, behind the scenes at Undead Labs, unbeknownst to all of us, the reason that this happened is because the guy who was the head of the studio basically didn't care about the studio anymore. He wanted to make another studio and make other games, and he had his attention completely split, and he essentially let the game just kind of roll and release kind of unfinished. And then, the weirdest thing about all of this is that Microsoft bought the studio. Okay? They added Undead Labs to their portfolio of studios. It was almost like Microsoft just wanted to add a variety of studios to their library to say, oh, look at all these game studios we own now. So they bought out Undead Labs. And apparently when Microsoft bought out Undead Labs, the people who worked there already were kind of demotivated because they were like, damn, we have no direction. The person in charge of our company doesn't really care. The game we put out just got critically panned. We're hoping for the best, but now we don't feel so good about Microsoft because what if Microsoft comes in and really tries to change our culture? Well, apparently it was the opposite. When Microsoft bought Undead Labs, they didn't try to change anything at all. They had a very hands-off approach. The problem was the company had no direction. A new guy came in to run the company who apparently was a terrible leader, and then under him were people who were just kind of yes men and yes women. Like, apparently there was a head of HR that was hired that was really known as a good HR person in the industry. But when people went to her with concerns, like, man, I feel like I'm being mistreated by my boss. I feel like there's a lot of people who are just like, for example, in particular, women in the workplace felt like anytime they had an opinion, the men would brush them off and say, oh, well, thanks for sharing, but whatever, on to the next topic, instead of actually taking them seriously. And apparently a large group of these employees were disgruntled and kept going to HR and saying, hey, why, can we get this addressed? We don't understand how this is fair. That we're the same level of employees as other people, but they get their opinions treated as, important, and we basically just get ignored when we have concerns. And apparently this HR person, who again was supposed to be like a head of HR in the industry, a leader, just said, oh, we'll handle it, we'll take care of it, and never did anything, and just kept brushing it under the rug. So after about a year now, after the release of State of Decay 2, they're trying to work on State of Decay 3. The game has no creative direction. All the teams are working on separate things, but there's no coherent whole, meaning there's no one who's actually taking control of the project and saying, let's combine this story element with this gameplay element with this and this. And there doesn't seem to be enough priority being placed on when will this game come together as something playable, as opposed to just make all these separate elements work and then eventually we'll slam them together with tape. So basically one of the worst ways you can develop a game, okay? So, that being said, okay, basically the game is a horrid mess, and all these concerns being given to HR being ignored. So these employees went to Microsoft and said, hey, Microsoft, what is going on? Why our game's a mess? We have no leadership, and all our concerns are ignored by HR. What gives? And Microsoft went and had a meeting with the head of HR, and within a week, the head of HR left the company. And lied, by the way, and publicly said, oh, there was just a routine reorganization, and that's why I left. What? What? There was no reorganization. You're the only person who fucking left. Like, what are you talking about? So basically, a lot of people started leaving the company in droves, and basically this company's been falling apart at the seams since then. And I guess the story just broke yesterday. Of course, it was Kotaku. So take it with a grain of salt. But Kotaku did this research article about it, basically stating, if this is only one company, right? This is the state of one company right now within Microsoft that Microsoft has bought. Does this mean that basically all the companies that Microsoft bought don't get any help from Microsoft? Like, are they not doing anything to help them in any direction? Are they just all left to fly by the seat of their own pants and do whatever? And Microsoft is like, well, we bought you, but we're just trusting in your own abilities to make a good game and run yourselves well, rather than actually interjecting any kind of direction or help at all. Maybe not. I guess what it is, you don't really know. This is really the only story that's out there right now. But essentially, what people are saying is that basically that game, this studio and the games they're pumping out are going to be a horrid mess, and there's nothing that can really be done because the studio is in shambles, and the people who work there are completely demotivated and don't really care, but it's just a job they want. They're basically afraid that if they leave, that they'll be blacklisted in the games industry. Like, what happens if you're working for a studio, you're acquired by Microsoft, everything should be going good, and then you decide to bail ship? Well, maybe people will see that as a negative and not want to hire you, right? So, I definitely see at this point that this company is a mess, and it's kind of weird the way that it went down, that everything seems to be, presented as a positive, like, oh yeah, State of Decay 3 is still in development, don't worry about that. And you ask the employees of the company, like, no, this game's never coming out. And again, how many companies like that are under Microsoft's wing? Because it was really interesting when we saw Microsoft start to buy up companies 2-3 years ago. But now the question is, are any of those companies ever going to come to anything? Will there actually be games coming out from these studios Microsoft bought? Are they overseeing the projects, or do they just throw money around and now they're just letting everything just roll for itself? Which, is that really a way to go about running a company? I don't know. The way I see it, it's kind of either extreme is bad. If you're completely hands-off, right, you could have an Undead Labs situation happen. Bad management, mistreatment of employees, ignoring the issues, and now the game's never going to come out. On the flip side of that, how many times have we seen publishers like EA get their hooks into something and ruin it? right? With BioWare, a company that's known for making narrative-based RPG content, oh, go make Anthem. Well, we don't want to because this is not what we like. We'll go make Anthem anyway. Well, this game's kind of like Destiny 2. Don't ever say Destiny. This game is not Destiny. Go make Anthem. And then look what happened with Anthem, right? So, that being said, I'm curious to see the future of these Microsoft-owned studios. I really am. I'm curious to see what's going to happen and if anything's going to come out of any of them. I think that some of them will do all right because some of them probably were well-developed and working well when Microsoft bought them. But in a case like Undead Labs, is this going to be a case in point now where Microsoft will realize we can't just let everyone just do whatever they want and we maybe have to have some oversight and maybe have some creative control and do, you know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm thinking. And I guess it remains to be seen. I wish that it's all speculation at this point. That's the problem. Like, we don't have any evidence or any information from other companies yet that Microsoft bought, how they're doing. I would hope this is not the case because, let's be honest, we were all excited when we heard Microsoft buys this company, buys that company. But if they're completely hands-off on everything, how many more of these are going to happen? I mean, Bethesda, okay. Bethesda, they got their shit going. They've had their shit going for years. They put out major hits, whatever. State of Decay was kind of an anomaly. The company had never made a popular game before. Their first game blows up as a hit, right? That doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to keep pumping out great games. They're certainly not a Bethesda-level company. And the fact that the creative guy in charge of the company just decided to leave, you know, that's a bad sign. So, I guess what we'll see is what happens moving forward. But this is just a big story that broke. I wanted to comment a little bit about it and the history about it. And, you know, I know that this has nothing to do with the topic at hand. But, again, I just want to emphasize with everyone. Be careful what you watch out there. A lot of these people who play these games early are literally either being paid to do it or are actually getting positive benefit from getting that game early. You know, early views, early contributions from their audience. And they're not allowed to be honest about what they're saying and doing in the game because they're under a review embargo. That's not honest content. That's paid advertisement. That's dishonest shilling. And I hate to say it, but a lot of people can't see the difference between the two anymore because it's been so commonplace for people to get these early copies and be playing them early that now, how do you tell the difference? Where's the fine line between the two of content creation and actual advertisement? You've got to be careful about what you're watching. You do, because you never know. And next thing you know, you buy a game that someone said was good or looks good, and it's a piece of shit, and now you got ripped off. You got to be very careful about that stuff. And who you also support. Because keep in mind, someone who's probably getting a game several weeks early and playing it exclusively before everybody else, you know, probably doesn't need as much support as the other people who are normal people like you and me who are trying to make a living being honest. I'm just saying. Okay. Now, ladies and gentlemen, let us get to the shout-outs part of the PreStream podcast. All right. Let's start with the YouTube side of stuff. So on the YouTube side of things, we start off with Zoya, who did a super chat and says, may I ask what you're getting, Kat, for your anniversary? As I've said many, many times, for my wife and I, it's not about materialistic stuff. It's about spending time together. And right now we're debating about what we would like to do together for anniversary celebration. It's not going to be this week simply because there wasn't enough time to plan or whatever, but probably the week after. We're going to see if we want to do something special on our day off, but I'm not going to give any specifics because that's none of anyone's business. There you go. Zoya did another super chat and says, do you have any reflections on turning 40? Is it scary? The only thing that's scary about it for me is that I'm getting older. And I realize that as I get older, I'm going to have health problems. And I don't like that, obviously. I like being here and being able to not feel like I have any limitations on what I do on a stream. I realize that now I'm getting older, I'm going to have to start working out. It's just inevitable now. I have to. I can't ignore it any further. Because if I do, I feel like I'm going to get to a point where my body can't get healthy again. You know what I'm saying? Not to say that I'm unhealthy. I'm really not. I'm okay. I'm a little overweight. But I need to get to a point where I have wind again. Where I don't have unnecessary pounds sitting on me for no good reason. I have to start exercising again. All right? I have to. That's definitely one of the things I'm thinking about turning 40. But outside of that, you know, I like everything about what's going on here with the streams and my personal life and everything else is good. None of that is scary. What's scary to me is my kind of health things and having to do a little bit about it. Okay? So there you go. Zoya did another super chat. Would you ever consider IRL vlogs as a member's goal? No. I'm never going to do IRL vlogs because IRL vlogs reveal too much personal information about where you are, what you're doing, and it's just not safe. Just being honest. This is not safe for someone like me who sadly has a bunch of toxic idiots on the internet stalking them. Angry Templar did a super chat, says reaction content. I'm excited for that, dude. Yeah. Now again, keep in mind, it's not going to be a daily thing or whatever. This is a one-off special where I'm essentially going to go through the most viewed video about me on the internet, and I'm going to talk about each topic that's addressed in the video one by one, let you know the full take, the full situation around it from my perspective, and a lot of times I'm going to be admitting fault because I admit that back in the day I did a lot of stupid-ass fucking things that just made no sense, but I didn't know what I was doing. I was just a dumbass, and I never took it seriously until it was basically too late to take it seriously because so many people already hated me, all right? So that's why I think that that would be a very special kind of video, all right? Snow Carl became a member, so we got one new member today on stream as a result of my announcement. A single new member so far. There you go. I'm curious, did we actually, though? Let's take a look. Because we started off at 352 today. And currently, right now, we're at 353. So we did actually gain one new member on the stream. Whether or not that's Snow Carl or not, who knows? I don't know. But we can add one new member to the stream as a result of my announcement. All right. And then Mr. Inherit did a super chat and says, how do you think games will work in the future? You know, a lot of people have been talking recently about that video games cannot sustain the model that they have right now. That, like, every game is going to have to go to a games as a service model or a microtransaction model or both. But then again, for every time that we see something like that, or we say something like that, then you get a game that's a big hit, that's just a single-player game that sells traditionally like old school games do. So, I don't know. I think, what I'm thinking is we have a new game space where there's a lot of different kinds of games that can be successful. Some will be more traditional outings. You pay the full retail price, you get the full game, it's one experience, you're done. You're going to have other games that are games as a service, right? You pay a little bit to get in the door, or maybe you don't pay anything at all. It's free to start, but then you have to pay a subscription fee, and they edit that experience over time, and they add new content to it. Other games, maybe you'll have to buy season passes, you know, every once in a while to get more content out of it. I think that there's all these different business models that could work as long as they all prove that they're providing sufficient entertainment value to the consumer. And ultimately, that's where I feel the judgment has to be made. Because I don't care if you're a games as a service model as long as the service you're providing is giving value to the customer that they feel like they should keep paying. All right? Obviously, Grand Theft Auto Online has done something well. I don't like it. I don't personally see the value in it. That doesn't mean I'm an ignorant idiot who's going to sit here and say, oh, it must be terrible. It obviously has to have something of value. In fact, I would say probably if you have a group of friends who like to do social things online, maybe GTA Online is the place to do it because it seems like it's insanely popular and people have been playing this since launch and making Rockstar a ridiculous amount of money, right? So obviously there's merit to it. Not for me, but the good news is that there's so much out there, right? There's games like GTA Online, but then there's other games like Destiny 2, but then there's MMOs, but then there's MOBAs, but then there's competitive games like first-person shooters and fighting games. But then there's non-competitive games that are more casualized. There's the viral kind of games like Among Us and Fall Guys. There's the standard narrative-based game experiences. There's games that are open world. You know what I mean? Like, there's all these different game experiences. The more, the better. You know? But will there be something that... And here's where the slippery slope happens. Just because GTA Online is ultra-popular. Just because Fortnite is ultra-popular. How many companies lose their creative direction and their originality, and instead they just focus on what makes money? And that, I feel, is where things go awry. Because when you're not working on making a good game or an entertaining game, all you're doing is looking for a money printer, right? That's where you can go wrong. Why do you think games like Anthem fail, right? So that's really where we got to be careful, I feel. Okay, so thank you, Mr. Inherit, for that super chat. Now, let's get to the YouTube side of things. We start off with Slayer, who tipped me $1.50 and says, just to update my Elden Ring status, I've cleared East Limgrave with the Erd Tree, finding the well, and I cleared the fort to get half of the Grand Lift Key. I'm also using the Golden Halberd now, and I cleared Stormvale Castle except for the tree mini-boss, the one in the basement, I guess you're saying? Cool. Good progress. The well is really cool, although you may very well be underleveled for the well at this point, because it is much more challenging than the other stuff in the early game. It's meant to be kind of a something you go back to later, or it's meant to be something that's way more challenging than other things in the area. So if you've cleared South Limgrave and East Limgrave, it's time for Stormvale, and you're doing it you're basically doing exactly what you should be doing. And once you beat Stormvale, you should go check out Liurnia and have fun there, because there's a ton of stuff to explore there too. Cool. Thank you for keeping us updated. Now, Kirby Naught tipped $25 and said, this is to support the ongoing Kirby stream, so here you go. So I won't count it towards this stream, since that's supposed to be, you know, ongoing support for Kirby. And I will mention this tonight, that there is ongoing support for the Kirby streams, even though the Kirby stream doesn't see that tip popping up during that stream. It is still part of that, you see? Okay. Leviathan has tipped $3, says, I'm relatively new to your channel. Can you explain detractor lore? No, there's no point. And the thing is, that video that I'm talking about, the Down the Rabbit Hole video, I don't think that's a detractor video at all. It's hilarious because people have referenced it to me like that over the years. And then when I watched it, I was like, that's not detractor stuff. Here's the difference. There's a difference between someone who observes and documents and someone who detracts. Someone who observes and documents does their best to actually get factual situations and or at least reasonable speculation about something that happened and present it in a kind of matter-of-fact situation, while a detractor is someone who's literally doing their best to make you look bad. You know what I'm saying? Like, okay, here's a situation that happened, but instead of presenting it in an objective fashion, here's a very negative subjective presentation of that. In a lot of cases, with added derision, with added insults and things to just extrapolate upon the negativity and toxicity of that content, you see? And I think that's the difference here between someone like Frederick Knudsen, who's trying to present very matter-of-factly, versus someone like, you know, any of the illegal restreamers, any of the people who've tried to make this shit over the years, someone who makes a video saying I rage quit a game when I never rage quit it, factually wrong shit, just for clickbait. You see the difference? So, there you have it. That's the difference, and that's what I mean. Like, doing a video like Down the Rabbit Hole, I don't feel that's something that's overly negative, even though, yes, it will present many negative things that I've done in the past in a very objective light. That's okay, they happened. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's a difference between, okay, this concretely happened, here it is, or here's terrible things said about me that actually didn't happen or spun in a way that didn't actually happen to get clickbait toxic views. It's different. And by the way, again, when I do something like this, reacting to a video like that, you're going to get my perspective, because a lot of the stuff that was said in that video was either partial truth or only truth spoken to what public knowledge was. I have more than just public knowledge because I'm the person involved. So I can add more to it, extrapolate upon it, and give you more of an explanation about a lot of the things involved. In fact, there were one or two things there that I was like, wow, you know, I realized I've never publicly spoken about it, because at the time it made more sense not to, and now it's years later. It doesn't matter if I talk about it. So there you go. Okay. Joe, I think it was supposed to be George Blood, but instead it's Yogi Blood. He forgot the R. I mean, I'm going to put up the name as spelled, but he misspelled his name. Let's... Look, this is how he spelled it. And he basically says, I should go to Kiwi Farms and read a thread about me. Now, that is something I will absolutely positively tell you all I will never do. All right, number one, just to go over there and subject yourself to a website like that, you want to talk about going down a rabbit hole. That's not going down a rabbit hole. That's like going down a shit-encrusted but hidden razor blade stuck on the side hole. By the time you get down it, you are completely mauled and destroyed. Like, any semblance of rational thought is gone and lost over there. The few times that I went over there, because people instructed me, there was personal stuff over there that could be harmful to myself or my family, and I had to go over there, I just, like, was like, I can't believe it. I can't believe the shit that's over there that is passed off as fact, that is passed off as acceptable stuff to be put up on the internet to begin with. The guy who runs that site, I can't imagine how the guy is fucking sane, because he's not. There's no way that someone could sleep at night and run a site like that unless there's something wrong with them. It's meant to be a weaponizable website to hurt people. Let's put it that way. And I would never go there. Absolutely not. That is the last place I would ever do, because that is 100% harm. There is nothing on that site meant to help anyone. It's 100% let's weaponize the internet to hurt people. And that's why I would not touch it with a 100 million foot pole. Okay. Atlas Telemon tipped $1.50. He says, The Hateful Truth, Hate Live, Cooking with the King, and many more. I missed them, but I know they're in the past. I always enjoy the pre-stream, even if I'm not watching all of your playthroughs. Hashtag legacy. And you know what? In a lot of cases, I do feel like this pre-stream podcast is kind of the culmination of all of that stuff. Because look at all the topics that we talk about. So he said, The Hateful Truth. I talk about games and my opinions about games here on the pre-stream podcast. Hate Live. This is the evolution of my old podcast, right? It really is. It's what's become of it now in the modern day. Cooking with the King. Okay, I don't cook on this podcast. I'll admit that. But that was not content that was meant to be long-term anyway. You see what I'm saying? But I hear you. Like, think of the Week in Preview. Like, all that stuff has fused into kind of the pre-stream podcast that I put out once a day. And I understand that people are just like, for example, Ask the King has now been delayed for a month. If you haven't noticed, I haven't mentioned it recently because there's really no reason to at this point. We're still not in a situation where Ask the King makes sense. We're not. I'm still backlogged on the games I'm playing. You know what I'm saying? Do you want to take a whole day out to do Ask the King? Of course not. We'll do Ask the King. I promise you all it's going to happen. But I will let you know ahead of time when it's going to happen, so that way more people will post up questions and we'll get ready for it. We'll put it in a week coming up when there's not so much going on in gaming and I'm not so backlogged that it makes sense. Right now, it's just another show that kind of doesn't make sense in my modern formula of things. You know what I'm saying? So, okay, Mr. Inherit did a super chat, and he says, making mistakes is normal, but you have to own them. And you're absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. One thing in my past that I used to do is I always used to be ultra defensive. When people called me out for doing something wrong, and I would be so defensive and brush it off and say, oh, no, that didn't happen, or it's not a big deal. And now I look back at some of the mistakes I made. I'm like, dude, those are so fucking stupid and boneheaded. You know, now I own up to it because I realize I'm not that person anymore. Thank God. You know, but I was in a point in my life, especially when I had situations where, like, I would be called out publicly for things that I said and did. And I felt like, well, I'm the popular guy. My shit doesn't stink. Like, I would try to be as defensive as possible and say, oh, it's not a big deal. Or, oh, you know, that's not really anything bad. Or these people are just, you know, blowing everything out of proportion. Today, you tell me I did something wrong, I'll do my best to try to listen to your concern and understand what I did wrong and try to fix it. Because I'm not perfect, and I know that now, you know. I realize that back then I was very, very, very big-headed. Being someone who was doing more unique style content, getting popular for the impromptu commentary style gameplay video, and not really having many peers. I really didn't. Everyone back then who was popular for like a very focused, I'm the Call of Duty streamer, top guy, I'm this, I'm that. And I was very different. And not really having peers, not really having experience. Like, I didn't see anyone else do what I was doing and become popular. I didn't have anyone to base what I was doing off of. I would just make a lot of mistakes. And then instead of admitting up to them or fessing up to them, I would just lie or say, oh, it didn't happen or it's not a big deal. You know. So, again, if we hit the membership goal this month and we go through that down the rabbit hole video, there's going to be a lot of situations where I'm going to be like, yep, this happened, that happened, absolutely, concretely. But what I can do is extrapolate upon it. Because there's a lot of things that are complete and utter misconceptions that are just not true, that can be more fully explained. Doesn't mean that I was innocent, you know? It doesn't. There's definitely things I screwed up on, and I'll admit to that, so. But anyway, we got a long ways to go. Since I made the announcement on the podcast, we've got one new member. So there you go. Really makes me feel positive about it. Anyway, guys, that's about all I got. So I would say thank you. Let's end the pre-stream podcast. And we're going to start up with some fun Ghostwire Tokyo gameplay for today. And I hope you guys are excited. Thank you for listening to the podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. Again, remember, if you like the content, please like it. Whether you like the stream, you like the video on demand, you leave comments. You know what? Let me know your opinions on this idea. Do you think that this idea is terrible for the membership goal? Let me know. I want to know in the comments. Or do you think it's good? Let me know. I want to hear all of this. Alice Telemont tipped $1.50. He says, I remember the being laid off video more than a decade later. Here we are. It's freaking amazing. I know. Isn't it funny? And, you know, I'm sure if we hit the goal and we do this react video, I'm sure I will elaborate upon this. But isn't it funny that essentially at that point in my life, the worst day of my life then led to the best thing I've ever done, like, for work? You know what I'm saying? Like, being a content creator on YouTube and a streamer, this is the most rewarding work I've ever done. It's the most meaningful work I've ever done. And by the way, even with all of its ups and downs over the years, it's still the most stable work I've ever done. This has been more consistently supportive and stable than any job I've had, right? And it all started when someone laid me off because they just didn't understand what the hell they were doing. And they basically dropped the ball big time on a bunch of people. And it is what it is. But look at what happened, right? All right. Anyway, guys, let's end the pre-stream and let's get started. Thanks for watching. Cool.